So yesterday we have seen everything about boards, but in some cases what happens, you wanted to get more functionality than it shows. So right now in boards, what are the options we have? We have work items, boards, backlogs, sprints, queries, and delivery plans. But sometimes what happens, maybe your organization requires or your team requires, especially your team or your project requires something additional functionality within the boards. So in such scenarios, what happens? Either you can uh, develop the additional functionality on your own, or you can get it from the marketplace. So what is marketplace? So marketplace is an area where Azure DevOps offers you additional functionalities by offering some extensions. So if you go to marketplace, there you will see many extensions. Those extensions will help you to get additional functionality. So you are expecting something more within the boards, but I have only these options. I have only these options. How can I get any extra option? So I want to get some more. So we will see marketplace. So there is a shortcut for marketplace within the portal itself. This is the one. This is marketplace. So you can see they are saying browse marketplace or manage extensions. Okay, browse marketplace or manage extensions. So if I already have some extensions in my organization, I can go to manage extensions. This will take me to organization settings page. Here you can see. See, it came to organization settings page and directly it came to this section. Organization settings, general category, extensions. Now I want to get some additional extension for boards only. Now I will go to browse marketplace. So here we have different categories: Visual Studio Code, subscriptions, and then Azure DevOps. So for Azure DevOps, again, there are different categories. So these are like featured ones. These are most popular ones. And these are something which are newly released. And then these are recently added. And now we have separate categories like Azure Artifacts, Azure Boards, Azure Pipelines, Azure Repos, then Azure Test Plans. Now what I'm expecting something more within Azure Boards. Okay. So I will click on here. I can see more. So for especially for Azure boards, we have 371 extensions. That means whatever you are seeing here, apart from this, you can get 371 additional functionalities. So those functionalities, if you want to know, you need to go through all this. So what is this additional extension? What it gives to me? These are all things you can know. Now I will go with a simple extension. So this is like work item visualization. This is like work item visualization. So when you are choosing an extension, it always better to go with the rating and the reviews. Here, if you see, it has 4-star rating and people already downloaded this for 44,493 times. That means if you consider this as users, 45,000 users already using this. That means this is very good. And this may be giving some additional functionality what is required for them. Now what I will do, I will get it for free. As this is free version, so it is showing get it for free. If it is paid, they might provide some trial for 30 days, then you need to pay some amount. As I already logged into my account, the moment I clicked on get it free, it directly came into this additional page and it fetched my organization. See, my organization name is Rajesh Organization, so it fetched my name. What it is saying, this extension is already installed on this organization. This extension is already installed on this organization. So it already verified whether this extension is are there or not. Now, if I go to my extensions page, I've all done this extensions page. Here I can see, yeah, yes, it was already installed. Work item visualization. Okay, it was already installed. Now, what is the additional functionality I'm expecting here? If I go to any work item, so here I have more options within the work item. Okay, you can see here the last option showing visualize. So before this extension, this option is not there. Before this extension, this option is not there. I got this option only after installing this. Just a second. Sorry. So before this extension, this option is not there. I got this option only after installing the extension. Now, if I click on this, it will help me to showcase the status of these work items. So I have two work items. So this is the task and this parent was main user story. Just this, yeah. So this way that works. So this is the first task and this parent was this and this user story has one child, again one parent, and then this feature will have one parent again. So that is the parent. So if I zoom it, so this helps your organization or your seniors to showcase what are the links between the work items. What are all the links between the work items? Now see, so this is the task, this was parent. So this is some additional functionality you are getting by installing the extension. Some additional functionality you are getting by installing the extension. So in the same way, you can get more extensions from this marketplace based on your requirement. So if you are expecting anything more within boards or repos or anything, it's always better to go to marketplace and look for the additional requirement. So if you want, like in this case, I just want to visualize the work items. So I got a visualizer. Now, if you want something more, you can go to the marketplace and search for it and get that additional extensions and install them on your organizations. Okay, this is a kind of additional thing for each service. It's not only for boards. You can install for each service. So you can install for repos, pipelines, test plans, artifacts. The same, they are already divided. This is artifacts, boards, pipelines, repos, test plans. And the top ones are like they are common. So time tracker, Visual Studio, these are common. They are like organization level or user level based on their functionalities. Okay. Now, so we have already covered everything in boards. Even we have seen if you want many additional functionality also, you can get it by installing additional extensions. Now, before going into repos, okay, first I should say, what is source code management, SCM, or what is VCS, version control system? Either source code management or version control system. These are the two major areas where every developer of your organization will be working. So it's confusing when I say DevOps engineer. People will think of that. Okay, DevOps engineer, he may work on development or he may work on operations. No, it's not like that. So DevOps engineer is not meant for only development or he is not meant for only operations. DevOps engineer is a guy who will make things easy for developers and operations. Who will make things easy for developers and operations. It's not like that, okay, DevOps engineer, he can work in development or he can work in operations. When you are working in development, why should I call you as DevOps engineer? You will be like developer, and when you are working in operations, you should be like a support guy. So it's not right that I'm giving a development work to DevOps guy or I'm giving a support work to DevOps guy. What is the main role of DevOps engineer is DevOps engineer can make things easy for both developers and operations. How he can make things easy? Because if a developer want to write source code, he can create the repository. He can create the repository by using specific source control system. It can be a distributed source control or centralized source control. And within the repository, he can create branches and he will restrict access to other people within your branch or other branches. And the moment you commit your code, he will take the code and he will build the code and he will deploy into the different environments, maybe dev, prod, test, or any environments. So once the deployment is done, he can set up some monitoring system so that monitoring system will help operations guys to monitor the environment easily. It's not like that he is monitoring the environment. He can set up some monitoring. He can set up some alerting so that the operations guys or support guys can monitor the environment easily. And if there is any issue, they can raise the ticket or they can alert the developers or engineers immediately. So these all things are covered by DevOps engineer. It's not like DevOps engineer will work on this source code only or DevOps engineer will work on operations only. The main role of DevOps engineer is to make things easy for both. So that's why people used to say DevOps engineer is like a bridge between developers and operations. No, he's not like the bridge. He's on top of both the things. He's not in between both the things, but he's on top of both the things. He can involve in development activities. He can involve in operations activities. So when it comes to development, the key role is the source code management, the version control system. The moment you get an idea, to create an application or to write an application or to create a software application, first what you need to do, you need to have a proper source code. So when you are saying source code, I might have 1 developers or 10 developers. I got an idea, so I cannot develop on my own. What I do, I will take some help. So I will recruit or I will get some help from different developers. They may be in the same area or they may be in different countries. For suppose I have an application which needs a 10 people work. So I need 10 developers. They are writing the source code. 5 are from India and 5 are from US. So the time zones are completely contradicting. So when it is say India and US, it's like 12 hours difference. Some areas it's more than 12 hours also. So if it is morning for you, that is night for them. If it is night for them, morning for them, that is night for you. So in such scenarios, what happens? You both cannot work together. Okay, you both cannot work together. But what happens? You have written some source code, but they are not available. If you want to show them your source code, you need to wait for them at almost 12 hours. So you have completed your work in the morning 12 o'clock. But if you want to talk to them, you need to wait night 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock until they come to office or until they come to online. So this gives some gap. This is kind of a scenario where you are getting your code was stuck at some point. There are some other scenarios. What happens? For suppose all the 10 developers are working from India only. Okay. But suddenly one person went on leave. There is no information, but suddenly it's emergency. So suddenly he went on leave. The entire source code was on his system only, on his laptop or on his desktop, on his system only. As per organization rules, we are not allowed to access his system. So we don't know what is the status of his source code. He never shared his source code with anyone. So the entire source code is in his system only. So because of one guy, the remaining 9% work was stopped. We don't know when he will return. He went on emergency. It may be 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. So this will cause your entire application to stop until he returns. Until he comes back, you cannot integrate the source code from his system and you cannot build the entire source code. Why? Because there is some missing module. If you consider there are people are working on different modules, an entire module is missing. So you cannot say that, okay, my application will be ready by next week or next month. Why? Because he is not available and the source code was stuck in his system and we can't access his system without his permission. So to overcome these kind of scenarios, people came up with an idea called version control system. Version control system. So the moment you write your source code, okay, you have written some source code in your system, don't keep it in your system. You send it to somewhere where everybody will have access. Okay. For suppose, as I said, there are 10 developers, right? These 10 developers will have their own systems. So let's say 10 systems. Apart from these 10 systems, I will maintain another system that's called centralized system or centralized server. So that centralized server, what will have? The centralized server will get all the changes from these 10 systems, or you need to push your changes. The moment you complete your work. For suppose today, let's say developer 1, he written almost 100 lines of code. Don't keep it in your system. Immediately push it to the centralized server. So even if you are on leave tomorrow, the developer 2 will know, okay, developer 1 has written 100 lines code. Now I can download this 100 lines code from centralized server, not from developer 1 system, but because he is on leave. So this way what happens? Not only for developer 2, the remaining 9 people will know, okay, developer 1 has written 100 lines code. That code is available in the centralized server. We can start from 101. This helps you to keep the work going and to maintain the repository in a centralized location easily. So this is going fine. Okay, this is going fine. But at one point of view, people came to know, when I am managing everything in a centralized location, okay, it is allowing only one person at a time. So what happens here? See, this is like centralized version control. So where I am maintaining a centralized server, there I have my repository. Repository means nothing but your source code folder type of thing. Repository means nothing but your source code. You are saving that in a repository. So here you can see this is workstation 1, workstation 2, and workstation 3. I have 3 developers and there are 3 PCs. Okay, the moment the first copy is ready, so I am committing it. Then if I want to work on the next thing, I need to pull it back. So the same way happens with all these 3 copies. So this is like centralized version control system. Sorry. So, but the problem here is, if the first guy is taking something from this repository, the second guy cannot access. If the first guy is taking something from this repository, second guy cannot access. Why? Because the server can respond at once to only one guy only. So if any one of you already working or already worked in Office, there are some files will be shared with you in some SharePoint locations. SharePoint is one of the best example for centralized repository management. So if they share you something from SharePoint location, it's kind of Excel sheet or Word file. So if you let's consider the file is an Excel file or a Word file. So you go to the SharePoint location, you open that Excel sheet, and you may be adding some additional lines or you are modifying the existing lines. If someone tries to access the same file, the SharePoint will tell them that you cannot, you can access this file, but you cannot modify anything. Why? Because as the other person is already modifying something. So it will give you only access, but it will not allow you to change something. So this is kind of a problematic in centralized. That means if I have 10 developers in my team and there is 100 lines of code in the system, if I want to add 101 line or 102 line, one person at a time can access. The other person need to wait until the other person completes his work. Again, this is giving some problem. Okay, it's like one by one you need to work. What about the other people? They are sitting idle. It's like, for suppose developer 2 is working entire day in the same repository. The other 8 developers are not doing anything. Why? Because I'm not able to access the centralized repository. It is allowing only one person at a time. Okay, even though we are managing the source code at a single location, but it is still giving a problem that they are not able to access the entire repository at a time. In that scenario only, people came up with another idea called distributed version control system. Okay, distributed version control system. Now what I am doing, whatever repository it's there on the server, okay, whatever repository it's there on the server, I am giving this copy of the repository. I am giving this copy of the repository to each user. Now you can see on workstation 1 I have a repository, workstation 2 I have a repository, on workstation 3 also I have a repository. So now what happens? Now they can modify or change within their local repository first. As they have the complete copy of the repository in their local system, they can modify or they can update or they can add anything to the repository. Once they add everything to the repository, then they can push the entire repository to the central repository. Now we have two repositories. So one is in the server repository, one is in your local repository. So in your local repository, you can do anything. You don't need to wait for anybody. In your local repository, you can do anything. You can add code, you can delete code, or you can update code. The same way, the other two people also, they will have their own repositories. They can add, they can update, they can do anything. Once their work is done, they will push the code to the centralized repository. If there are anything issues with the changes of this guy, then it will show you, hey man, I see the same changes are already there in the repository. Then he can cancel his work. Simple, nothing to do. If the same changes are already there in the centralized repository, then he can cancel his work. He can work on next changes. Why? Because these three people are working on same change or different changes. You don't know what they are working on. So by mistake, if you committed the same changes, no, nothing to worry. You can cancel your push operation. So this way, some people are using centralized or some people are using distributed. Both are good. It's not like that, okay, centralized is bad or distributed is good. Both are good, but it completely depends on your organization decision. Some organizations, what happens, they want people to work only one guy at a time. So they want this kind of mechanism only. They want people to work one guy at a time only. So in such scenarios, what happens? They will go with centralized only. They don't want to give the repository to all users. Here, if you see, I am giving the entire repository to the user. I am giving the entire repository to the user, but in centralized, I am not giving. I am always maintaining the repository in my server only. I am not giving the repository to the user. If you want to add or if you want to modify files, you need to come to the centralized server only. I won't allow you to do anything in your local system. But here I'm allowing to do anything in your local system. So there is a benefit with this. What happens if I am managing the entire repository in a single server? Okay, if I am managing the entire repository in a single server, if tomorrow something happens to the single server, there may be power failure or hardware failure or OS corrupted. If something goes wrong in this server, then I will lose entire repository. then I will lose entire repository. There will be no other copy for me. There will be no other copy for me. If I lose the server, then I will lose the repository as well. But in distributed, there is no such problem, because if I lose this server, if I lose this entire server, I have 3 copies of repository. I have 3 copies of repository. So I can take it from any one guy and I can create another server. There I will replace that repository. I might lose some changes, but not the entire repository, right? I might lose some changes, but not the entire repository. Why? Because when I have 3 copies, these 3 copies may have different changes, but at least I have a copy. For suppose today is September 1st, consider September 1st. So I gave these 3 copies to these 3 developers. On September 10th, okay, on September 10th, I lost this server. I lost this server. So what I can replace, at least until September 1st, I have all the changes with all these 3 users. Until September 1st, I have all the changes with all these users. If I replace this repository from any one of them, I can show them that, okay, until September 1st, I have the repository ready, but after September 1st, these changes are different. So this is how I can use centralized version control and distributed version control. And this is not like that, okay, this one is good, this one is bad, based on your organization requirements or how they want to manage their source code, how they want to keep the versions of the source code. So now I have told you one advantage between centralized and this one. So if I lost something, I can replace it by using distributed, not by centralized. In the same way, distributed is suitable for small size repositories. Distributed is suitable for small size repositories. It's not suitable for large size. When I say large size, sometimes what happens, a repository itself will be in GBs. Generally, if you write any source code in a file, the file will not be more than 1 MB. The file will not be more than 1 MB. But in some organizations, what happens? They have very large code. They have very large code, and they will have very okay, and they have many files. They have very large code, and in the same code, and it was distributed in many files. Then the repo size will go to GBs, like 1 GB, 2 GB, or 10 GB. In those scenarios, it always better to go with centralized. Why? Because when it is 10 GB source code, that is critical source code. So if you distribute it to all the users, that means 10 GB here, 10 GB here, 10 GB here, 10 GB here. That means 40 GB of your server space is taken, but the source code is same. 40 GB of your server space is taken, but the source code is same. So it is waste of space. You are wasting the space just to replace all the source code. So people will go with centralized only. Why should I waste 30 GB extra space? I will manage this 10 GB here. So as I said earlier, if I lost this repository, I will not have another copy. To overcome this, companies already replicating. Companies already replicating. Replicating means I have this repository in server 1. So daily at the end of the day, I am copying this entire repository to server 2. Why? Because if tomorrow something happens to server 1, I will have the copy in server 2. So they are setting some jobs, automated jobs to back up the source code and to move this to some other servers daily. So as I said, it's always depends on your organization or your project requirement, how you want to use, whether you want to go with centralized or distributed. Centralized or distributed. Now coming to examples. Version control. Just a second. Yeah. Maybe I'm not getting proper examples, but I will tell you. These are kind of best version control systems. But if I go for centralized version control systems, here this is not displaying, but I will tell you straight away. The top centralized version control system which was famous until today in the market was Subversion. Okay, Subversion. This was created by Apache company. If you are in already industry, you might know Apache. Apache is a software company which develops multiple tools. The famous Apache software is Apache Tomcat server, which is used to host Java applications. Apache Tomcat server is more suitable for Java applications. If you want to run Java application, Apache Tomcat server will help you. Okay. This is very famous. Apart from this, the other one is TFVC. So Team Foundation Version Control. Team Foundation Version Control again it's a centralized version control system. So this is from Microsoft. This is from Microsoft. Okay. So these two are very famous for centralized version control system. Now coming to distributed, the major one, the top one is famous was Git. Okay, the top one is Git. Here you can see Git is a free and open source distributed version control system. Okay. These are the ones I showed you now. Subversion, TFVC, Git. These three are like version control systems. Okay, these three are like version control systems. These are not source code management systems. These are like version control systems. So source code management systems are again different. So GitHub is a source code management system. See here you can see source code management functionality. Source code management functionality. GitHub. Then another one is Bitbucket. Bitbucket. This is also see source code repository hosting service. Source code repository hosting service. Okay. Then apart from this, another one is Azure Repos. Azure Repos. Azure Repos. It is also free private Git repositories. Azure Repos. So GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure Repos. These three will give you source code management functionality. So within the source code management functionality, you can use either Git or TFVC. You can use either Git or TFVC. Don't get confused between Git and GitHub. Both are different. Git and GitHub both are different. Git is version control system. GitHub is a source code management system. So GitHub is using Git as a version control tool. GitHub using Git as a version control tool. Not only GitHub, Azure Repos, Bitbucket. These also uses Git only. Azure Repos and Bitbucket also uses Git only. So Git is a distributed version control system. TFVC, Team Foundation Version Control, is a centralized version control system. So you need to know if tomorrow someone asks you what are all the different types of version control systems we have. There are only majorly two types. One is centralized, another one is distributed. So can you tell some example? For centralized, you can say Subversion or TFVC. For distributed, you can say Git. Okay. And who are all using this Git? Okay, Git is being used by GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure Repos, and TFVC was used by Azure Repos and other centralized version control systems. Okay. So before going into repos, you need to know all this. What is centralized version control system? What is distributed version control system? What is Git? What is TFVC? What is the difference between these two? Which is a better one to choose? These all things you need to know. So that's why when I am creating new project, so here I am seeing these two options. So why they are giving two? Because if you want to go with centralized, you can go with the TFVC, Team Foundation Version Control. But if you want to go with the distributed, you can go with Git. You can go with Git. And this is like process. So which process you want to use? Either Agile, Basic, CMMI, Scrum or anything. Okay. So now I already created a project. And while creating this project, I have chosen Git only. So here you can see this logo is for Git. Now if I create new repository, I can choose either Git or TFVC. So even by logos also, they are differentiating both the systems. What is Git? What is TFVC? Now I can go for TFVC. Okay, if I go for create, yeah. Now I have two. One is Git, one is TFVC. Okay. See, now if I select Git, so I am seeing files, commits, pushes, branches, tags, and pull requests. Okay. If I select TFVC, now what I am seeing? I am seeing files, change sets, shelf sets. Change sets, shelf sets. So the best part of Microsoft is you try to monitor, you try to observe these logos. The same logos will be there in Git also with different names. So with that you can differentiate what is what. See, files is this logo, change set is this logo, and shelf set is this logo. Now I will go for Git repository. See now, so files is okay, that logo is same, but there you have seen shelf set here, that is called pushes. Shelf set here, that is called pushes. The change set is nothing but commit here. The change set is nothing but commit here. Maybe the logo is different here, but files, change sets, shelf sets. Next, these are branches, tags, and pull requests. So files is nothing but it will show you all the files in your repository. So let me go with any other source code where I have multiple files. So if I go here, yeah, here if I go to repository, see here in the files, it is showing all the source code files, all the files in my source code. Then commits, it will show me all the commits. So what are all the commits? How many commits? Commits means nothing but a change. Commit is nothing but a change. So how many times you changed this code? What are all the commits you did in this code? Then pushes. So pushes means something. So here if you observe, see, push means something. A user from his local system, he pushed something to central system. A user from his local system, he pushed something to central system. So how many times they pushed this source code to here? So that's what these pushes. So they pushed 3 times. Okay, they pushed 3 times. That's why this has 3 pushes. That's why this has 3 pushes. Then next, branches. So this branches concept is not there in centralized. In centralized, there are no branches. You will have branches in distributed only. So what is branching strategy? So branching strategy is something like you are having the same source code copy in different locations. You are having the same source code copy in different locations within your system only. It's not in the central system. See, like this. So you got the repository in your local. Again, you can create multiple copies of the same repository within your system so that multiple users can use it. Don't get confused. When I'm going into the topic, I will explain you. So that is branches. Then tags. Tags are something like pinpoints. Tags are something like pinpoints. As I said, if a developer goes on a leave for 10 days or 15 days, within these 10 days or 15 days, the source code might have changed a lot. In that scenario, if you create a tag, after 10 days or 15 days, you can directly go to the tag and you can verify, okay, this is my code. After my code, there are 10 or 15 lines added. So that you can, after my line, there are 10 lines or 15. So you are creating a pinpoint for your code so that you will come to know from my point, how many changes are there. That is nothing but tag. Then pull request. So I always used to say this should be push request. I don't know why they named it as pull request. So what is pull request means? Here, if you have seen, an user tries to push from his local repository to central repository. Okay, an user, when he tries to push from local repository to central repository, before adding the code to the central repository, someone needs to verify it. Here you can see pull request allow you to review code and help ensure quality. Pull request allow you to review code and help ensure quality. That means here if you see this user, when he tried to push something to this user's repository, you are not going to allow him until he reviews the code. If there is something wrong in the code, or if it is everything okay or not. So for that purpose, you will raise a pull request and ask him, please verify my source code so that I can push it to the central repository. Okay, I will review and I will let you know whether it is good or not. If it is wrong, I will cancel your request. If it is good, I will allow your request so that your code will go and sit in central repository. So files, commits, pushes, branches, tags, and pull requests. So if I go for TFVC, okay, now I have something in TFVC here. So if I go with TFVC, this first project. So here I have files, that is common. Whatever you show here, those are nothing but the files. Then change sets. Change sets are nothing but commits. Change sets are nothing but commits. See, change sets are nothing but commits. Then shelf sets are nothing but pushes. Shelf sets are nothing but pushes. Same here, you can see in the image. So user committing something to the central repository, that is nothing but push in the central case. In central case, that is nothing but a push. So that's what we call as shelf set. Then change set is like history, commit. How many times you got changed the source code? How many times you got changed the source code? So if I go for change set, see, I will see one change. Shelf sets, I don't think, yeah. Why? Because there are no shelf sets, no pushes from any user. So these are two different things: centralized version control system and distributed version control system. Azure Repos supports both. Okay. So if all of you have installed Git, so this is Git window. So they call it as Git bash. Why? Because it was completely developed on a bash script. It was completely developed on top of bash script. So bash commands are something like, so if I say pwd, it prints the present working directory or print working directory. So if I go for ls, it will list the files in the folder. It will list the files in the folder. Then if I type something like date, it displays today's date. So these all commands are supported in bash. These all commands are supported in bash. So Git was developed by using the bash commands only. It was developed on top of bash scripting. So they call it as Git bash. They call it as Git bash. If you have already installed Git, you might have seen this window. So don't prefer Git GUI. Don't prefer Git GUI. We have GUI as well. GUI means graphical user interface. GUI means graphical user interface. This is completely confusing, guys. Don't prefer this. It's always better to learn these commands. It always better to learn these commands. So don't go with Git GUI. So very less organizations, they prefer GUI. So if they don't want to go with command window, they will go with Git GUI. They will go with Git GUI. But it always better to go with Git commands only. Why? Because even in your interviews also, people will always ask you Git commands only. So they will ask you what is the command for this activity or what is the command for that activity. So it's always better to get hands-on on the commands only. Don't prefer GUI, graphical user interface. So when you are using, your hand should always go to Git bash only. See here I'm seeing multiple. So Git bash, Git GUI, Git command. So it's always better to go with Git bash only. Okay. So you might, if you have installed Git, that's good. Monday, we will start from Monday. So you got idea on complete repository management, right? What is repository? What is distributed? What is centralized? And what is the difference between distributed and centralized? Which one suits your project work? And how to get these extensions? Okay, how to get this everything? So get an idea, and it's always good to have an idea.